Really cool recipe if you have access to local cider or if you press your own cider. This is apple cider molasses. This is a very old method of preservation for cider, and basically all you need is cider. You can make it with just cider. I add a little bit of spices here. So that's spice bush, cinnamon, and allspice. And I was taught to make this by my friend and former chef and mentor, Lenny Russo, when we worked at Heartland in St. Paul. A lot of you will know I learned many things from him. Very formative time in my career. We're going to tie those spices up into a bouquet and cheesecloth. And then we're going to bring this up to a simmer. And I use a wide pan here. It'll take a lot longer in a taller pan. You want a lot of surface area. And then we're going to skim off the impurities, just like if we were making chicken stock or something like that. And this is not an exact science. If you don't remove all of the impurities, what'll happen is that they're going to kind of float to the top of the jar after it's all done, and you can just skim them off then. But this is also good practice. It's good practice because if you're making homemade stock or anything like that, your process is going to be similar. Here I'm putting the pan on the side of the burner, and that's going to push the impurities to the side. And you can use that trick with any stock that you make. Just kind of pushes the impurities to the side, makes it easier to take off. After about 30 minutes, we are going to remove the bouquet of spices. And if you forget about it or something, it's fine. You're not going to make it too strong. This is such an easy recipe, easy to adapt, add your own spices, but it's about half reduced there. After about 60 minutes, we're going to be getting pretty close here. And if you wanted just like a loose syrup, you could take it off the heat at about 60 minutes, but you're going to see the bubbles are starting to get bigger. That's how we know that the sugar and everything is kind of getting concentrated there, but the bubbles are going to start to get big. And you just keep it going, just reducing low and slow until we get to about the 75-minute mark. And I will say I actually overcooked this one, the first batch, but it's okay. This is great. This is totally done, but I was filming and I wanted you to see the viscosity, so I over reduced it, and it ended up being a good thing because I can show you how to bring it back. Well, all you have to do is add a little bit of boiling water, but you can see the viscosity here. The bubbles are a little bit larger. It has the consistency of warm honey. And this is actually, like I said, it's a little bit overcooked. You shouldn't have that many large bubbles. But even if you do, like I said, it's easy to bring back. And when it's done, you should have about a cup or a cup and a quarter. And you're just going to pour that into a mason jar. And then you can water bath can it. And you want to make sure to pour this into a warm or room temperature mason jar. If it's cold, it would make the jar shatter because sugar syrup is really hot. So easy. And you can see the first one. This is a little bit overcooked. It's almost like caramel or candied. It's just a little bit too thick, but that's totally fine. I added like a tablespoon or two of water, hot water, stirred it, and look, it comes right back. And the stuff is shelf stable. You can put it in the fridge. You can can it. You can do all kinds of stuff with it. You can make the batch any size you want. It is fantastic on homemade yogurt with granola, and there's some black nightshade berries there too, and butternuts. At the restaurant at Heartland, we used to serve it with chicken a lot. It's also really, really good with pork chops, ribs, anywhere you want like a sweet and sour or something. And in my book, I use this instead of tons of sugar to make pine cone jam because the pectin will naturally thicken it without adding any additional sugar. So tons of different things that you can make with this. All right, let's try some of the apple molasses. First thing you'll notice is that it's super thick and it's like silky and velvety, but there's no added sugar. So I assume that the thickening qualities come from the natural pectin in that freshly pressed cider, which has not been frozen, because apple juice from concentrate, you can't use that. I assume because the pectin gets denatured when it's been frozen and it has been manipulated. You need to use it fresh because it still has all of that pectin in it. But it's super silky and velvety, and it just should have the consistency of like loose honey. But when you taste it, it's not like honey or maple syrup. Yeah, wow. The first thing you get is that it's super sour. And it gets you right here, right in the back of the throat. I assume that the sour taste is from the malic acid in the apples. But it's so good. And then after the sour, then you get all the sweetness and the apple flavor. So it's similar to honey or maple syrup, and you can use it in recipes where you would use either of those. Oh, it's so good and so appley. And it's just a great thing to make. Great experiment if you've never made it before, especially if you are pressing your own cider or if you just haven't tried it before, because, you know, a half gallon of cider is like $5. Half gallon is probably the smallest batch that I would try to make. You can make the batches as big as you want, and you can can it. It can just sit on a pantry, or it'll last in a fridge basically forever. This stuff is not going to go bad. It's kind of similar to like dulce de leche in that it's like a form, I see it as a form of ultra pasteurization for cider, for storing a lot of cider in a small space. But really cool thing to make if you haven't made it before. Go to the store, get yourself a half gallon of cider and give it a shot. Let me know how you like it.